Let's continue working with software instruments by adding a drum track to this project. Now, we've already seen that you can add drums and percussion to your project in the form of pre-recorded loops from the loop browser, or by adding the new drummer track to your project. And while those are both good options and appropriate for many circumstances, there are times when you really want a specific beat or rhythm on your song, and the only way to get exactly what you want is to play it yourself. Now, because we're adding software drums, you don't even have to be a good drummer or have a perfect sense of rhythm. As long as you can get close to what you want, you can correct your performance afterwards. So let's create a new software instrument track. From the library, I'll select Drum Kit, and let's find a drum kit to play. I'll just select a kit. We can hit some notes on the MIDI keyboard I have connected to my Mac. And you can test out a couple. Really though, since I'm playing software drums, I don't have to find the exact kit that I want to use right this second. I can just find one that works for me right now, and once I've recorded my part, I can play around and select other kits at my leisure. So I'll just go with this Brooklyn kit for now. Now, playing drums on a MIDI keyboard is not the easiest thing in the world, especially if you want to play more complicated parts. There are MIDI drum pads out there that you can purchase and connect to your Mac that will work with GarageBand, so if you actually have some drumming ability, you might want to look into some equipment like that, because MIDI drums let you play actual pads and sometimes pedals and better mimic the actions of playing real drums. Now, personally, I do not have drumming ability, so I'm going to stick with the MIDI keyboard, and I'll show you how to lay down a basic beat using the keyboard. Now, you can do this a couple of different ways. You can try playing the entire part all at once, so maybe you want to try to get the kick, snare, hi-hat, cymbals, and toms down in one pass, or you can play one or two parts at a time and build the track over multiple takes. Let's take a look at both methods. First, I'll attempt to play the drum part in one pass. So as before, I've got my playhead back at the beginning of the track. I'm going to make sure my drum track is selected. Oh, and by the way, you'll also have to tap around on your keyboard and find out which keys correspond to which drums. In most cases, the low C note will be your kick drum. The low D and E will be your snare and snare with a rim shot. And the notes above it will be the various toms and cymbals. So you'll have to figure out which notes you'll need before you start recording. But I'm ready to give this a try now, so I'll tap R to record. Just make sure I've got my position here. All right, here we go. Okay, so that was better than I thought it was going to be, but it's not perfect. Now, also as a general rule, you should usually record drum parts first, so the other parts can follow along with the beat. And I kind of did this backwards while building this project, so the timing of all three of these tracks is a little bit off. But don't worry, we'll be fixing all of this a little bit later. First, though, let me show you another way to put down the drum track. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that part I just created. And I want to show you something called cycle recording. Cycle recording allows you to play a specific portion of your song over and over again as you record different parts that will cumulatively build a single recorded region. The first thing we need to do is go to Preferences, and under General, make sure Automatically Merge Software Instrument Recordings when using cycle mode is checked, which it should be by default. And as you can read here, this option automatically combines multiple passes when you're using the cycle region. So what this allows me to do is to play through a section once and maybe just play the kick drum part, then play through it again and play the snare part, and then play the hi-hat part when it loops around again. But it's very important to make sure that option is checked under Preferences if you want this to work right. So to do this, I'll turn on the cycle region. By the way, you don't have to click the button here. You can actually click in the cycle region to activate it as well. And I think for this, I'm going to have it start at the very beginning of the song as it currently is. And I'll also give myself an extra measure at the end, just so I have some time to get ready for the next part I'm going to play between repetitions. So I'm going to let this cycle back on itself 3 times. I'll play the kick drum first, then the snare, and then the hi-hat and cymbals. And we'll see if I can play it any better this way. But again, keep in mind that it doesn't have to be perfect because it's a software instrument recording and we can fix it afterwards. All right, so again, I'm going to press R on my keyboard to start recording, and here we go. Okay, here comes the snare part next when it loops back. And we'll do the hi-hat and cymbals now. And again, we press the spacebar to stop. And if we take a look at that region now, we see that it's just a single region, but it contains all the parts I just played in those 3 passes. I'm going to turn off the cycle region and listen to it once. Okay, it's still not perfect, and my timing is definitely off in many places there. But again, keep in mind that it doesn't have to be perfect because it's a software instrument. But that's how cycle recording works when you're recording software instruments. You get a cumulative effect. But cycle recording works differently when it comes to recording real instruments, and we'll see how that works in the chapter on working with real instruments. But first, we've got some more things to learn about working with software instruments.